What's up, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of the Debate Mates. Today we are joined via Zoom with Jack Cashel, a fan favorite, and someone that is soon to be a fan favorite, hopefully, a guitar extraordinaire and Philadelphia 76ers superfan, Mr. Mercier.
Hi, everybody. Awesome to be here on the Debate Mates today.
It's the greatest honor of anybody's life to be on an episode of the Debate Mates.
It is the greatest honor of my entire life here.
So before we start, shout out to everybody that viewed our last video, and thank you for making it the most viewed Debate Mates video we've ever had. Not only is it the first time we've ever surpassed 190, we got to, last time I checked, we surpassed 420 views, which is thank you for liking it, sharing it, and make sure you subscribe as well if you enjoy the content. Shout out to Jack for coming on the last video. But most importantly, shout out to Pearl, the dog in the video, who really made that video special. Unfortunately, she won't be appearing today. So, and Coach Z as well, he'll be getting to the video a little bit later. Of course, technology sometimes makes things hard. So let's get right into it with our winners of the offseason. Mr. Mercier, you're the special guest. Who is your winner of the NBA offseason?
You're going to like this answer, Matt. My winner for the NBA offseason has got to be the Atlanta Hawks. I think with the pieces that they already have with Trae Young and John Collins, two rising superstars, if not already at that level, adding Gallinari and Bogdanovich and Clint Capella, which was a trade last year, but he never really got to play for him. So I'm kind of wrapping that up into this year's free agent pool. Those moves, man, I think that they're going to be legit in the Eastern Conference this year. I think that teams are going to have a hard time with the Hawks. I predict a playoff berth for them this year. The other winner from the West would probably have to be the Los Angeles Lakers, because LeBron doesn't have enough around him. But throwing Harrell in there to give him probably the best big man they've had in the last couple of years, as well as Gasol, who is, ancient but still can play a good 15 to 20 minutes a game. Those guys, and Schroeder, I think, Dennis Schroeder, adding those three huge pickups for the Lakers. I think they're going to be even better this year than they were last year.
Yeah, for me, that's why I had to go with the Lakers as my clear winner, because they went from most likely title favorites to like a miracle would have to happen for someone to beat them, I think. Adding Dennis, they already had the best duo in the league in LeBron and Anthony Davis. Now they have the best duo coming off the bench too with Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell. Lost Rondo, which Schroeder was better than Rondo. Montrezl Harrell, of course, probably might give you 20 and 10 off the bench if they use him better than they did in the Clippers. You got Gasol, who's going to play solid defense, kind of like a Dwight Howard in how he's going to defend, get into people, but he's a better passer, a better shooter. And then Wesley Matthews coming in, kind of an improvement over Avery Bradley. He didn't play great with the Bucks last year, but I still like him on the Lakers. And then the Nets are a winner for me because they haven't traded for James Harden yet. Every day that goes by where James Harden is not wearing a Brooklyn uniform is a great day for a Nets fan, because you got KD and Kyrie, who will probably both average 24 plus. Karis LeVert and Dinwiddie probably giving you 18 to 20. Harris giving you probably 15 a game. If you trade all those guys for Harden, you might have three guys averaging over 22, but your bench will be depleted. So every day they don't trade for Harden is a good day for the Nets. Therefore, Lakers and Nets are my winners.
I would have to agree with you on that, too. I mean, Harden hasn't won anything yet. He's a stat machine, but can ball hogs really win in the NBA, the highest level?
Jack, would you like to give us your last winners of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that the Lakers are kind of the clear-cut winners, but I think another kind of under-the-radar winner are the Pelicans, because they picked up. I think they've got some good stuff going on that roster now. With they added Steven Adams to their backcourt. I think is going to be big, and I'm blanking on who they got to replace Holiday. Who did they get to replace Holiday?
Eric Bledsoe.
Bledsoe, right? Yeah. So I don't think Bledsoe's terrible as a trade for Holiday. I don't think he's as good, but Steven Adams and Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram is probably, I would argue, probably a top 10 backcourt or front court, in the NBA. Then they've got Lonzo running the point and Bledsoe. That's a great defensive roster, and they've got some shooting as well. Guys like Redick and Lonzo's shot is coming along. Brandon Ingram's a solid scorer. I think they're now definitely an elite defensive team, along with still being, I think, a solid offensive team as Zion kind of develops and as Brandon Ingram continues to develop as well.
And if
That's a
Zion,
great take.
if Lonzo plays anything like he did in that 2K game we had the other day, oh my gosh,
Right, yeah.
they're going to be undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point about Brandon Ingram, a big thing this offseason was a lot of these not older guys, younger guys getting assigned to max contract extensions. Brandon Ingram, a guy you mentioned, is one of them. De'Aaron Fox staying with the Kings. Tatum, Bam
Donovan Mitchell.
Spider Mitchell, yep. So the Pelicans are set for their future, it seems like. And Steven Adams is a guy that doesn't seem like he's going to go for stats. So
right,
like the Pelicans is a team I could see him staying with. And then Lonzo, I don't know what the market will be like for him. So not only are they going to be pretty good this year, possibly an 8 to 7 seed, maybe they could sneak in, depending on what the Rockets and Warriors do. But they're going to be pretty good for the next 4 to 5 years. So Pelicans definitely under the radar winner. Jack had a good segue to our next question or topic, which was under the radar winner of the offseason. Mr. Mercier, who do you have as the second under the radar winner?
Man, I got a couple, but I'm going to go with the Portland Trailblazers.
You took my answer, Mr. Mercier.
Okay, I'll go with the other one then. I'll let you roll with the Trailblazer. I like that Covington edition, man, for them a lot. This is like how you going to pick this team. I'm going to go with Milwaukee. And I think the swap of Bledsoe to Holiday is going to make all the difference in the world for them, because I don't think that Bledsoe has been playing particularly well the last couple of years. I think Bledsoe is a guy who came up as a backup. I think he was Chris Paul's backup, and became like a 40% usage kind of guy, got hyped up, got a big contract, played as a 40% usage kind of guy for a few years. But as we've seen with Giannis and Middleton there, those are the studs on Milwaukee, and Bledsoe never seemed to really fit in with them outside of a big game here or there. But I think the addition of Drew Holiday, I think getting Wes Matthews out of there is actually a good thing for them. I don't think that's a great addition for the Lakers personally. But DiVincenzo is a rising kind of guy. They added Bryn Forbes, who's been really underrated with San Antonio. Great shooter. Can give you a lot of points off the bench, open up the spacing for that team a little bit. I think he's more productive than Wes Matthews. And the addition of Bobby Portis to me is interesting, because I think Bobby Portis is a pretty good power forward center prospect who can give you a lot of solid offensive contributions off the bench. He doesn't play much defense. But with Brook Lopez down low and Giannis, Middleton, they've got some elite defenders on that team. So I think Holiday, Augustine's another one. I mean, I think their backcourt improved a lot. So Milwaukee's a team that I think maybe could make that jump into the finals this year.
The reason I can't say Milwaukee is a winner is because it seems that the guy Giannis really wanted was Bogdanovic.
Mm-hmm.
That trade, I don't know what happened there. He didn't want to go to the Bucks apparently, so the sign and trade kind of fell apart. So for me, they're not a loser because they did get better, but they're not a winner for me because they didn't make Giannis happy, it seems. Like he might be a little bit happier with Drew Holiday. Maybe they have more playoff success. But as far as keeping Giannis with a young core that he seems to like to play with, I can't give them the win there. And then while you were talking, I thought of another under-the-radar winner, which is your team, the Philadelphia 76ers. I like the pickup of Dwight Howard, although he is aging. He played great for the Lakers off the bench. He was a key part in their championship run. Daryl Morey is already getting shooters for the 76ers, something that he did really well in Houston. They got Danny Green, who everybody has kind of ridiculed, but is still a really good shooter.
And a great defender.
A great defender. They got rid of Al Horford, which is big for them because he just took minutes away from Embiid and took paint touches away from him and Simmons. So get him out of there. Poor Thunder have to deal with his contract now. And then they got Seth Curry, who is another one of those underrated shooters that was great for the Mavericks in the bubble. I don't understand why the Mavericks would let go of him. Josh Richardson is a good pickup, but he wasn't doing much for the 76ers. They already have a great defender in Ben Simmons, so it doesn't really make sense to have two guys that have a similar play style. Seth Curry fits really well. He can come off the bench. He can finish games. He's just a phenomenal shooter. So 76ers, definitely an under-the-radar winner. And then my other one, like you said, the Portland Trailblazers, because they might have been maybe a lock to go no lower than the 11th seed coming into this year. There are a lot of good teams ahead of them, but I would say they're pretty good chance of making it to the playoffs now with the additions of Robert Covington, lost to Hassan Whiteside in favor of Enes Kanter, who I like a lot. He's a guy that always wins the hometown crowds, so I like him there. And then, of course, you keep the backcourt together. So I think they're an under-the-radar winner, like you said. And real quick, you said the Hawks you thought were a winner. I'm a Kevin Huerter fan, but you know how I feel about Trae Young. And I think the Hawks need defenders around Trae Young personally rather than more offense. Because Gallinari is a great offensive player. He's not going to play much defense. John Collins has been flashy, or he's played good on defense at times. Clint Capella should be a good defender for them. But as far as the wing goes, other than guys like DeAndre,
he's a lockdown center on defense.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to be able to guard any good backcourts in the Eastern Conference, especially when you get to the playoffs. If they're the 8th seed or the 7th seed facing off against a team that has Kyrie or a Chris Middleton, I don't know if they have defenders to defend those guys. But maybe all their goal is to just make the 8th seed and show Trae Young that they at least have a bright future ahead of them.
Well, I think, Chris Dunn is a really good defender, as is Rondo. Now, obviously, you can't put a lineup of all guards out there, but DeAndre Hunter, another strong defender. Tony Snell, strong defender. They have some defensive presence. Now, it's just finding those lineup, matches. They're gonna have to play with those lineups a little bit. It may be a little rough to start the season, but I really think that team could work out in the end. And I would imagine them as a middle seed in the Eastern Conference this year, because I think you're going to see Boston fall off a little bit. Not a lot. Brooklyn will obviously be the dominant team probably. But I just don't see a lot of teams in the East. We got Milwaukee, Brooklyn. Philly should be good.
Toronto should still be good. Heat.
Yeah, the Heat again. So I think a 6th seed is like a legit possibility for the Atlanta. I mean, I just don't see a lot of teams that are going to compete in the East. Be on the top 4 or 5.
Obviously, winners, Phoenix for getting Chris Paul. I don't think they're as big of winners as the other teams we've named, but they'll still probably make the playoffs, maybe even have a better record than the Trailblazers. So they're a winner as well. Jack, if you have any other winners, you can let us know, or if you want to just go to your.
I was going to say the Suns, so we've really talked about all of them.
All right, let's go through every team in the league, and we're going to say if they were a winner or a loser. No, I'm kidding. That'll take forever. Let's go to
nothing happened.
Let's go to the losers then, Jack.
All right, a loser, the Thunder. Unpopular opinion: the Thunder are set for the future more than likely, but they really messed up their odds of getting anywhere in the next couple seasons when they traded away Steven Adams. I completely agreed with, trading for picks as long as they kept Steven Adams. That was when it went kind of too far for me personally. Because Steven Adams, he's a good locker room guy. He's a solid veteran presence for all the young guys they've got on there. And it's like, if you're, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or some of the other young guys, developing stars on that team, it's like, what is your incentive to stay? Because you're going to waste your kind of developing years on a team that's not going to waste the playoffs, waiting for picks that may or may not develop into something useful. Odds are some of those picks are going to turn into key players, but I don't know if that's enough of an incentive to wait around, 3, 4, 5 years for all those picks to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I talked about it in the last video too, how I really wish they kept Kelly Oubre, because having Shea, Oubre, and Steven Adams would have been a really good big three going into the future. I couldn't quite say they were a loser yet. I thought it would be too controversial because everybody kind of has anointed Sam Presti as this mastermind general manager. So I'm going to go to the Warriors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I can't really say that their front office messed up. Bob Myers didn't do anything stupid. He didn't trade away a million picks like some other GMs did. But when you lose Klay Thompson, you're a loser.
Right.
And
I think they made good moves, but ultimately they are losers just out of circumstance of injured.
So I don't want to beat down on that point too much because everybody's still sad about Klay.
Right.
But another team that is a loser for me is the Houston Rockets. Maybe it was time that they blow it up. It was coming. It looked like Harden and Westbrook didn't seem to work, at least for not against the Lakers. And small ball kind of got exposed in the bubble. So losing Harden, losing Westbrook, and this is the worst time to lose Westbrook, I think, if he's like the man in a trade right now. They said they're willing to get uncomfortable playing the regular season with their duo a little bit. But Westbrook's value is as low as it's probably ever been in his career right now. The highlight of his bubble was getting into a fight with Rajon Rondo's brother. And he looks old. He looks a little washed up. I mean, 2 years ago, a Westbrook for John Wall trade, even last year when he was playing really well in February, if any team had offered or if the Wizards had offered John Wall for Westbrook, which is rumored now, the Rockets they would have hung up the phone in a heartbeat. But the fact that those two players are even comparable now shows how far Westbrook has fallen since his dominance earlier in the season and earlier throughout his career. So they're a loser for me because they're not going to get what they want from him. Christian Wood signed with the Rockets, who I guess they're at least showing that they want to go kind of big in the future, as well as DeMarcus Cousins signing with them, who could be an MVP candidate, not an MVP candidate, but could possibly be an all-star caliber player. Once again, we'll have to see with him. But losing Westbrook, losing Harden, I know it's not set in stone yet. They could turn this around. And also losing Daryl Morey, losing Mike D'Antoni. So Houston has to be a loser for me. Mr. Mercier, do you have any losers?
Yeah, I would agree with you on Houston. I like the Wood pickup. I think he's a breakout star. I think he's the guy who's going to pop this year as like one of these up-and-coming young bigs who can kind of do it all from all over the court. I mean, he really played well at the end of last year. But yeah, they're a loser overall. And Oklahoma City, I'm in total agreement, Jack. That they're the biggest bust of free agency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their team just looks now. So I mean, Dort looks like he's got potential, and Ariza's a solid guy, but they're building for the future. There's definitely no hope for them this year, I don't think. I'm gonna go with a loser being the Orlando Magic, and the Orlando. What's that?
It's Jack's favorite team.
No, we're losers every year. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are an obvious choice. The other team I was thinking about would be the Spurs, who, were below 500 last year and literally did nothing. So, they're going to field the same team that they did last year and expect different results. I just don't know. But the Magic are a team that, feels like they're a piece away. I mean, Fultz looked pretty good last year. It didn't look like the Fultz that Philly drafted. And, with Fournier, Ross, Aaron Gordon, and Vooch, I mean, they've got some really good players. Jonathan Isaac, if he can get healthy. But, if Gordon and Isaac, who've had injury problems all their career, basically, their front court can't seem to stay healthy. So bulking that up a little bit would have been solid. It looks like they've maybe added Al-Farouq Aminu. But, I mean, when was the last time he's done something? I just feel like they didn't really put any effort into improving that team, and so I think Orlando's going to be sitting on the outside looking in.
Yeah, they'll just be another fringe. They'll be a fringe playoff team and get eliminated in the first round if they even make it. Same as every other year.
And if they had added one piece, they probably could have pushed.
Yeah, because they've got so many. Besides Nikola Vucevic, it's just a lineup of really mediocre players. They're not bad, but guys like Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Evan Fournier. They're also average, they're all dudes who will give you 12 points a game. And, I feel like maybe get rid of Gordon and keep Isaac. I'd rather have Isaac for the long run than Gordon, honestly. But
I think Isaac has more potential. Yeah, I would agree.
Aaron Gordon's flashy, but I really don't think he's that good of a player. Markelle Fultz, I mean, he just needs time, honestly. But guys like Fournier, who are kind of, getting older, he's 28. He doesn't really fit in the same time frame as guys like Isaac and Fultz. I feel like you got to say goodbye to dudes like Fournier and probably Gordon as well if they really want to have any chance at winning. Because those guys, I mean, they have some trade value, but in a few years they probably won't. So I mean, trade them for something decent, maybe some shooters to put around.
And Vooch's probably got a couple of years of high performance left in him. He's getting up there in age at this point, so
especially with bigs. They always retire early because of their knees. So, I mean, he probably doesn't have more than a couple of years. He's only 30, but he probably only has a couple of years.
Right. And I think, I think the Spurs are another team that just kind of flopped. I mean, the Jazz didn't make any moves, but the Jazz were, playing at an elite level towards the end of last year. So the Spurs are a team that needed to make some moves, I think, and they didn't do anything. So I think that they're a pretty big loser from free agency. And I think one thing to note would be that Charlotte's addition of Gordon Hayward. I don't know if you were going to talk about that, Matt.
The $120 million 4-year deal.
Wow, man! For a guy that has played 60 games in 3 years or something, that's risky. But if he can stay healthy, man, that's a huge addition. That guy's a baller.
Yeah, and he's also a rapper. I don't know if you guys heard it, but G Time his rapping name. They released a rap when they showed a highlight of him in his rookie year. And they're like, this is Gordon Hayward, but what you might not know about him is that he's also an aspiring artist. And then it was pretty weird. Yeah. He's not talented at rapping, at least.
You don't really see that. It's hard for me to envision.
Yeah, I can't see it.
It's about as good as me rapping, probably.
Probably not.
So, loser of the offseason, Gordon Hayward, because even though he got a lot of money, he's now
he's stuck in
everyone
Charlotte.
knows he can't rap. So, loser, Gordon Hayward. Under the radar losers for me is the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. The Heat lost Jay Crowder. He went to the Phoenix Suns. So they lost a really good power forward who was crucial in them beating the Celtics, beating the Bucks. So I think they'll miss his defense and especially his shooting, his willingness to guard a LeBron or Tatum. So I think they'll miss him a lot. I think the Nuggets are going to miss Jeremy Grant a lot, who signed with the Pistons. There were a couple games in the Lakers series where Jeremy Grant's offense kept him in it. Jamal Murray was not scoring as well as he did against Utah and the Clippers. Joker was doing his thing. But Jeremy Grant was sometimes the best player for them against the Lakers. He had a couple games where he scored 22 points. Really good three-point shooter, really good defender. I don't understand what he wants in Detroit other than maybe he wants to be a small forward. So I think they're going to miss out on him a lot. It was a bad year for contenders because a lot of these power forwards are going elsewhere because they want to show what they can really do in a different position.
Yeah, and Jeremy Grant, I think, is such a big loss for them because he's not a fantastic player, but he's their perimeter defender, really.
Yeah, he is.
He was so key to guarding guys like Kawhi Leonard and even LeBron James, even though they didn't beat the Lakers, obviously. He was key for guarding those guys and limiting their opportunities. So I don't know what – they're a really talented offensive team, but I think they lost their biggest defensive piece by trading him.
Yeah, I agree with
that. The only silver lining for the Nuggets is that's going to open up a lot more minutes for Michael Porter Jr., who, I mean, flashed last year in spots. If he can get consistent and consistently decide to play defense, because there were games where he played defense and played defense well, but then he takes he has that LeBron mentality where he takes breaks on the other end sometimes. But that guy's got gifted ability offensively.
Yeah.
So getting him more minutes could be a good thing. Could be. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. So any other winners or losers that we didn't go over that you guys would like to mention before we go on to our opening day schedule, Christmas day schedule predictions?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think I covered it.
Okay, so opening day is December 22nd in the NBA. The preseason schedule was released, but, people will watch it a little bit, but we're all waiting for December 22nd when we see the best teams face off. Christmas Day has been talked about a lot for games that we want to see then. Opening day, we got 2 games normally. Who do you want to see play? What 4 teams do you want to face off?
I want to see the Lakers versus the Bucks.
All right.
I think.
I mean, go ahead.
I want to see Brooklyn versus somebody, but I don't know who yet. That 4th team. Milwaukee, Brooklyn, LA.
Those are your main 3. It doesn't matter who the 4th team is. Just slide anybody in there.
Well,
Brooklyn versus San Antonio opening day.
Yeah, great game. I think there's a lot of teams you can slide in that 4th spot for me. I mean, Toronto would be fine. I think I'd be happy with that, or Philly. And in the West, New Orleans would be an exciting team on opening day. Get your Williamson fix on opening day.
For me, I went with Lakers versus Clippers, and I went with Heat versus Celtics. And you could talk me into Lakers versus Heat, especially if it's in LA. I mean, Jimmy Butler would probably go off for 40 or 50 points if he had to watch LeBron get his ring. So maybe I want to see Lakers versus Heat. Heat at Lakers. That would be pretty cool, pretty disrespectful to the Heat. But Lakers, Clippers, obviously LeBron and Kawhi is a matchup a lot of people were really hoping to see. Clippers kind of fell apart. It would be great to see Montrezl Harrell play against his old team. I guarantee there will be a scuffle between him and Patrick Beverley and Marcus Morris probably as well. So Lakers versus Clippers, always a crazy game whenever you have LeBron and Kawhi. And then Heat Celtics, the conference finals matchup, mostly because I don't want to waste any of my really, really good games because I want them on Christmas. So this is a good game to start the season off with. You just seen. I feel like you always have to have one of the teams that was in the or both teams in the finals represent it, even though the Heat aren't the biggest market or not the most entertaining. Heat Celtics, Tatum's improved, Jaylen Brown has improved. I think it'll be a great matchup. Celtics may be coming out looking for some blood. So I got Heat versus Celtics. Jack, what are your ideal opening day games?
I'm trying to think of some that are cool, but not that could also be done on Christmas. I think that seeing the Heat, if they don't go against Lakers, seeing Heat versus Bucks again could be cool. See if Giannis can get kind of a revenge game because his name's kind of been dragged through the mud since losing that series. Yeah, I would want to see Golden State play, but I don't know who. Because I definitely want to see them play Brooklyn at some point, but I think that could be good for Christmas. Seeing Katie versus
I was thinking that myself. Golden State versus Brooklyn would be fun with Durant's return. And
maybe I could see Heat versus Bucks and Lakers versus Clippers being good. Personally, those are two that I would want to see.
You get no argument from me on that.
And now, how about let's give one a kind of out of left field one that we know won't happen, but it would be crazy if it did. Something like two teams that are entertaining that'll be a good matchup, but will have no chance to play on opening day or Christmas. I know this is I didn't get you guys to prepare for this one, but let's just think of two teams entertaining but are not big enough markets to get a game on Christmas or opening day. Mr. Mercier, you're the guest. I'll put you on the spot first. He just turns
smaller
off. Smaller
markets. I think Portland is a team I want to see this year. I'm excited to see Lillard and McCollum and Carmelo and Covington and Nurkic. I think those guys, I mean, if they can stay healthy, I think Portland's going to be really good. Well, who would they play?
New Orleans, maybe. New Orleans.
I was thinking,
small market.
I'm thinking New Orleans. Maybe I don't think Toronto doesn't really count as small market, does it?
No.
And New Orleans would make sense as a Western Conference team. So I think like Portland, New Orleans would be a fun game.
What about Charlotte versus the Timberwolves? I think LaMelo Ball might come out with something to prove to beat Anthony Edwards because he was the first pick. LaMelo fell to 3. And obviously you don't want to waste the Warriors against the Charlotte Hornets. Although it might be nice to see Curry like break LaMelo's ankles or something like that. But I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think my hot take on Melo Ball there is that's going to be one of the biggest bust draft picks I've ever seen.
Of all time or just this year?
I think maybe of all time. I think that's going to flop.
Hot take from Mr. Mercier.
I think it's going to flop.
And Jack,
maybe that's just me rooting against his dad, and that's not fair to him.
LeVar is great. LeVar Charlotte.
LeVar is a legend.
And Jack, what is your out of left field game, if you will?
Ooh, probably New Orleans versus Charlotte somehow. Lonzo versus LaMelo. That could be entertaining.
That'd be fun.
All right. Now let's move on to Christmas Day, which is probably the most exciting day to be a basketball fan aside from playoffs. Jack, you want to get us started with your 5 Christmas Day matchups?
5? I don't know if I can come up with 5. I can come up with 2 or 3. Golden State versus Brooklyn's got to happen. Heat versus Lakers got to happen. But who's someone who could go against the Bucks? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of elite teams.
I'll
Bucks
give you
Celtics.
Do you want to go and you'll see if you can give Jack any ideas?
Celtics and Bucks could be cool, I guess.
I was thinking Celtics and Bucks as a game for Christmas might be a good one. Or Toronto and Boston.
76ers and Celtics.
Yeah. I think some combination of Toronto, Philly, Milwaukee,
and Boston.
And Boston some combination of those 4 teams playing each other. I like the Heat Lakers rematch idea. I do like the Nets Golden State idea a lot. Anytime you can kind of get these revenge games in there. What was the other one I was thinking
Maybe
about?
Clippers versus Nuggets because they had a semi, or Nuggets versus Jazz because those were both really good playoff series.
Absolutely. Yeah, anything getting Denver in there would be good too. I think Denver's going to be really good again this year. And the Los Angeles teams against each other, if they don't do that opening day, would make a good Christmas Day game.
And with the Nuggets and the Jazz, I think strike while the iron's hot because people aren't going to be interested in them much longer. Even though Joker is great, Spider Mitchell is great, you're coming off of the highest they've been in forever. So you might as well get that right now, put them into a prime day schedule so get their eyes on them. But for me, I didn't include either of those two teams. I went Lakers versus Nets because Kevin Durant is my favorite player, and I always love to watch him face off against LeBron. And that is a game that's definitely going to be prime time somewhere, whether it's Christmas, opening day, or Martin Luther King Day is a day they have a lot of prime games. So one of those 3 days, I can guarantee this will be on. Hopefully it's Christmas. And Clippers versus Warriors for me is where I have the Clippers in. Because Patrick Beverley said the next 5 years are mine to Steph Curry, and they have not played since then. I'm sure Steph Curry remembers that. And even if he doesn't remember that, I'm sure he always wants the opportunity to make Patrick Beverley look like a horrible basketball player. Because I think most NBA players want that opportunity.
Right. Nobody likes Patrick Beverley.
Even without Clay, I think this is a fun matchup. See what Wiggins and Oubre can do. See how Wiseman performs against Serge Ibaka or Ivica Zubac, whoever the Clippers have as center. Then I have the Mavericks and the Pelicans.
You're right. Mavs could be cool. Luka Doncic playing.
Luka versus Zion. Everyone will watch that. Bucks.
Yeah. I think you could roll Dallas versus Atlanta too, and sort of rehash that draft from a couple of years ago. Trey versus Luka.
Yeah. And then
I think the Mavs are going to be down this year. I don't think Porzingis is right, and without him, I don't.
Well, that's the one thing. Porzingis won't start the season with the Mavericks. He's got to rehab a little bit. So this will be like the end of season Mavericks versus the Pelicans, which will maybe make for a more fair matchup, I think, because I think the Mavericks are going to be heads and shoulders above the Pelicans this year, possibly finishing top 4 in the conference. But anytime you get Luka and Zion, I mean, everybody will watch that, in my opinion. Then I have the Bucks and the Celtics. Just, Bucks are always there on Christmas. They're that 12 o'clock game that nobody really watches. I'm sorry, but it's true. Nobody cares about NBA at 12 o'clock on Christmas or at 10:30 on Christmas. Those games as well just never have happened again. So Bucks versus Celtics, and then 76ers and Heat. Because anytime Jimmy Butler plays against Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, you're in for a show. Mr. Mercier, I bet you're one of the people that hated Jimmy Butler for a while when he called out the 76ers and left. Did you want the Heat to just implode because you wanted Jimmy Butler to be wrong?
Nah. I don't think he was wrong. I think we've had some pretty poor management, unfortunately. So, and I think letting him go was a mistake. But there's something wrong with either Simmons or Embiid, and they brought in studs to play with them, and nobody seems to get along with them. I'm not really sure what the issue is, but Butler clearly proved he was not the problem since he led the Heat to the finals this year.
Yeah. And I want to get your take on this real quick, both of you guys. Some people have said, some GMs seem to think that the Heat's final run was an anomaly. Do you guys think it was an anomaly because of the bubble, because of whatever? Do you think that the Heat are just really good?
The Heat are just really good. I think guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo with their play styles, especially Jimmy Butler, are better playoff guys than they are regular season guys, because Jimmy Butler is the type of player. Jimmy Butler is like the exact opposite of the Bucks or Giannis in that in the regular season, he plays well but not great because his play style isn't suited for kind of the fast-paced style of the regular season. But in the playoffs, when everything slows down and you're playing in the half court, that's where guys like Jimmy Butler shine. And I think that Bam Adebayo does well in that environment too. So I think that they're good enough even in the regular season to make the playoffs comfortably. But once they're in the playoffs, I think they're legitimately a top 3 team, at least in the East.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Heat have been just one of the most underrated teams of the last decade. And I normally could care less about an NBA team's coach.
Wait 1 second, guys. It is time. Coach Z has entered the waiting room. There he is.
It is the Mansfield faculty team's MVP himself.
A new challenger has emerged. I just feel like that WWE character that just like runs out to get ready to like rock bottom somebody. What's up, guys?
He's about to clear the ring. Zolikoff is about to clear the ring.
Sorry about that, man. Our soccer game started late. Hey, you guys keep going. What topic are you on right now?
I was stalling a little bit waiting for you, Coach Z, so I'm going to let you go through all of the topics, and you'll give us your picks.
Oh, my. Oh, okay. All right. So let's just hit me up with the topics, though.
Wait, real quick. Let's put all the pressure on you. Let's pin Coach Z, so all the fans see is Coach Z.
Okay, awesome.
Who is your winner of the offseason?
That is a lot of pressure. Let me see. What were some of your options? What'd you guys say?
Should we give them to Coach Z? Should we help him out?
Oh man.
Yeah, I usually
It's
go with
cheating.
the flow, so I'm not repeating answers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Dennis, our winner so far, I believe I called out Atlanta.
Okay,
as my
yeah.
winner.
LA was
And
the Lakers.
The Lakers
obvious pick.
were a winner.
Yeah.
Jack, you said.
I don't remember who I said.
I had Brooklyn in there as a winner since they haven't traded for James Harden yet.
Oh, that's a good one. So, wow, those are all the three that I was going to say.
Oh, New Orleans, the Pelicans, Jack. I think you mentioned.
Oh,
yeah,
the
and
Pelicans.
did anybody mention the Bucks? I feel like before the season, I would say I'm kind of most excited to see the Bucks and definitely Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets are a winner in this offseason just by getting KD back. Right, Swanee? We all agree that KD is top 1 or 2 in the league when he's healthy. Let's see how that goes. There he is, number 35, Durant. Little side news story, as a Golden State fan, I bought a Monta Ellis jersey one day in San Francisco. No lie, the next day he got traded for Andrew Bogut. Just not buying jerseys. So I'd say the Bucks, just with Drew Holiday, he's just a great two-way guard, and I think it adds some offensive firepower to help Giannis. And then the Nets with having KD come back. But like you said, Atlanta, I'm very excited to watch. LA, obviously, it's as a Golden State Warriors fan.
We're going to have to make a cut
Coach
because my mom's yelling at me from the bathroom right now. So give me 1 second. I'm filming a video. Can we be back in 20 minutes?
Keep that on. Yeah, keep that on.
Matthew. All right. Resume what you were saying. I didn't want to have you go too far into it and then my mom walk into the room or something.
No, that's fine. I love it. Keep that in the video cut too. Don't take that out, Swanee. There's players I hate and there's teams I hate. And I'm sorry, Coach Stretch, but I've never been a big fan of the Lakers. There's just so many instances of why I hate the Lakers. So I will admit that they reloaded, but I was just hoping that their whole championship, everybody would be a year older and they would just atrophy and degrade. And it just seems like they've gotten better. So that's it.
Then who do you have as the loser?
Okay, loser's definitely the Clippers. I think when you lose, in contention of 6th player of the year to the Lakers, that's a huge thing. And just losing your coach too. I think it's too early to tell if Doc Rivers is maybe the independent variable. I know I always go back to Golden State, but that's my focus with NBA. But I was a huge fan of Mark Jackson. I thought he took us from those dog days, and he brought us into something with a more electric offense where you pass the ball to your open player. And so when they get Kerr, I was a little bit hesitant, but I saw what the jump of Kerr could do to a team in terms of getting everybody involved and your offense not being as stagnant. So I think losing Harrell, losing Doc Rivers, and just the whole stories about chemistry and this loss of leadership and big moments, I think they are the definite loser. You think about somebody that was Las Vegas favorite being the championship contender last year to now being 3rd to 4th favorite. That's a huge blow for them. And then obviously, who else is the loser, guys?
I said the Warriors.
Who else is the loser? The saddest day. Whenever that slogan, when it rains, it pours.
New York Knicks?
Yeah, maybe the Knicks. I mean, but they're always sad. So, you go from, a regression curve of, here to, here with the Knicks. Or, you start here to, here. And I think you're right, Swanee. It was, I don't know what it was about that day, but you ever have a ton of bad news just come at you all at once, right? And then I looked and it's Klay Thompson MRI torn Achilles. Oh, get out of here, it's over. Yeah, so I think they're definitely, and I don't know. I mean, obviously nothing you can control. The night of the draft, they didn't know the long-term outcome of Klay, so you take Wiseman, which I'm excited about. You've never had a true 5, legit 5 that could contribute offensively and defensively. But now with him being out, I just don't see them competing for a championship without him.
I wouldn't be shocked if they did. I wouldn't get your hopes down. I'd have more faith in the Warriors making a run than my Sixers this year, frankly. I think Oubre is a huge addition. That was a great pickup. Wiggins they have a solid starting lineup for if nothing else, and some depth. Eric Pascal looked good last year.
Yep. No, and those are all good points. I think like you had some talent that you developed last year. Oubre, I'm excited to watch. And Debate Bates knows. Maybe it is the Washington football team fan in me, the Pitt basketball fan, where I live in this permanent state of pessimism. So even when Golden State has a championship contending roster, I'm always thinking worst case scenario. I've been battered for a long time as a fan. But I just we talk about Steph, when the moment is big, can he carry the team? And he's not in that tier of like LeBron James or Kevin Durant that like one player, regardless of others are out, can really take your team to the next level. Well, to be seen. Draymond Green, I think his best days are definitely behind him. So he's not that like fourth all-star, third all-star that they have. So I don't know. We'll see.
All right. And then we, 2 games opening night. Some of the ones that have been taken: Lakers, Clippers, Heat, Celtics. Lakers, Heat. Jack and Mr. Mercier both mentioned the Bucks. So, Coach Z, what do you want to see for their opening day matchups?
Okay, so I mean, if you're a scheduling guru, which I think the NBA is like spot on with it. They look at any offseason trade, you look at like any like fierce former playoff battle or any type of like Twitter drama, like when Kevin Durant left OKC to schedule Golden State versus OKC is like genius. But go with your playoff battles and your intense rivalries. So you said Lakers Clippers is already up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also say I would like to see maybe Lakers versus Heat, like a rematch of the final where now you have like a truly healthy Heat squad. Because I felt like, they were just barely dragging themselves to the finish line, being like propelled by Jimmy Butler, but missing some key players. Goran Dragic and Bam was like hurt with his shoulder. So that would be a cool one. Let's throw up the Brooklyn Nets versus the Celtics. I think that's a perfect test now to just see, okay, here's a healthy Kevin Durant. Here's a flat earther society, Kyrie Irving. And let's put him against a nice Boston Celtics. I don't know. Yeah, and then you can maybe throw a nice little Eastern Conference battle, have the Bucks versus the Raptors or something to see if those additions with Milwaukee Bucks now have paid off and they look like they can consistently get over that hump. But I think the matchup is going to be them starting on Christmas, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for. I haven't seen my team play since what was this, March or something like that, since the last time they played. So just having basketball back at kind of a consistent time, I think is going to be a victory for everybody.
All right. And then your final topic, what games do you want to see on Christmas Day? You kind of mentioned Christmas there.
Oh, yeah. So sorry. I thought that's what I was answering to. Yeah, so I knocked 2 birds out with 1 stone. But yeah, I definitely want to see Lakers. I want to see the Bucks. I want to see Clippers, Nets, Celtics, Miami Heat. Of course, I want to see Warriors. That's going to be interesting to see if that young talent and those pieces do kind of come together. Although I remember NBA lockout of 2011. There was a big point about the teams with the most continuity really started off strong, especially the first 10 games of the season. And I just have a feeling, man, those teams that are left out of the bubble, they're going to have some rust. I speak I just came from a soccer game. Most of us haven't played for 7 months. That was the most out of shape, rusty soccer game I've ever been a part of. So I can only imagine some of these teams with 7, 8 months off to see how they look.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we can call it there.
I was going to say one more thing about your Heat anecdote, man. The most underrated man in the NBA might be Eric Spoelstra.
Every
year. Every year, the Heat compete in that 4 or 5 seed range, and that's with lesser talent. So I think the question was, were they legit last year, right? That was the original question before Coach Z got here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're legit, and I think it's rare that an NBA coach matters that much, but he is one of the rare instances. And you mentioned another one, Doc Rivers. I think he's, that's a big loss for the Clippers.
Yeah, but then you just never know. I think with Philadelphia, we will see because he's always had like some star-studded cast. Like when he won it with the Celtics, and this is not a hot take. I think most people would agree that he is an amazing coach. But can you, without 3 Hall of Famers, take your team to a championship? And you kind of had it with the Clippers when you have like Paul George and Kawhi. But you're so right, Mr. Mercier, about like Eric Spoelstra. Personally, I did not think he was a great coach because he had that initial dream team with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and he was some TV film guy that just worked his way up, never really played.
Right.
And now I really saw it in the playoffs. Like, man, like he's definitely like grown as a coach, and he's definitely one of the top coaches that we have in the game today. So.
And they field a super competitive team, even with like of the past few years, a roster that's like. Who do you look to as the star on that team? They haven't had stars. I mean, if Goran Dragic is your best player, you shouldn't be winning 45 games, 50 games a year, but you manage to every year. So
then again, it's in the East.
It's in the East. That's true.
Unless you're the Knicks, you're guaranteed 30 to start the season. I'm just kidding.
All right, and Mr. Mercier, since we don't know when we'll have you on next, it might not be before the season starts, we have to get your title favorite before the show ends.
Oh, this is good.
The title favorite. Man, I don't want to say the Lakers. It's probably Lakers. I don't want to say the Lakers. And then the other obvious choice is the Nets, but I'm not going to go with the Nets. I'm going to go with the team that I mentioned as the under-the-radar free agency winner, and that's the Bucks getting Drew Holiday to pair up. I think that's a major upgrade over Bledsoe in their backcourt. So I'm going to go with the Bucks as my title favorite this year. It's finally the year for Giannis. He's going to get over the hump.
And Jack and Coach Z, in case we can't have you guys on before we do our final predictions, why don't you both give us your finals your champion as well?
I know everyone would say this, but it's got to be the Lakers. I mean, it's got to be.
You don't have to say favorite is definitely the Lakers. Let's say though, knock on wood, I would never want, anything to go wrong with any team. But if you lose like LeBron or AD, like that's totally different.
Got a history of injuries too.
Yeah, that's just a totally different animal. Just like Golden State with Clay. I don't know. Hey, my rooting interest of who I really want to see is going to be let's go Miami Heat for the second go round, recharge fully healthy versus the Dallas Mavericks. Calling it here first. Let's go Mavs.
It's Luka's year.
Yeah, Luka's year. The extension. That's what they're going to call it.
Mavs versus Nets in the finals. I want the Mavericks to beat the Lakers in the conference finals. And as they're walking off the court, I want Luka to look to LeBron and say, "The future is now, old man." And then go into the locker room.
And then he just ascends. He just ascends to the heavens and disappears.
The future is now.
Into the rafters, and then he becomes a jersey on the rafters. He like transforms into a jersey.
Finishing the season with a quadruple double average.
What was the Draymond Green quote, Swanee?
The Draymond Green quote
about his triple single.
Triple single.
Good old triple single. Hey, I can get a triple single.
Draymond and Lonzo Ball, that's their go-to stat line, the triple single.
I know. Did we include any of the teams with like the high draft picks?
And as the winners?
Just excited to watch.
I'm excited to watch LaMelo Ball. I mentioned that if like NBA decided to go crazy with these opening day games, I would like to see the Hornets play like the Timberwolves.
Yeah, that would be a really cool one. So you see your number 1 and 3rd overall draft pick against each other, and those other teams have some good talent to watch as well. So
I like the Wolves this year as like a sort of underrated, under the radar team too. I mean, anytime you get a cat, I think you've got a chance. I mean, he's ridiculously good. So.
And he's partnered up with his boy D'Angelo Russell.
Yep.
Which I'm thinking now, should the Warriors have kept Russell?
Well, hindsight's 2020. I would say yes, they should have.
Russell over
he's better than Wiggins.
Yeah.
Swanee, you know how I feel about that. Why does everybody say he's better than Wiggins?
Well, Coach Jack, I want you to say something to Coach Z real quick. So Coach Z doesn't understand when people say that Wiggins is a poor man's Harrison Barnes.
I don't see it. I think they're like fairly equal to each other.
I think equal is fair. I think Wiggins and Barnes are better.
It's just like everyone dismisses Wiggins like Harrison Barnes is like his proclaimed baby Jordan, which he's never lived up to ever. And
Look.
I've watched every single Harrison Barnes game on the Warriors, and when you need to win it, and Harrison Barnes, the ball's in your hands,
he's not the guy.
double teams, he's not making little shots.
I doubt that. You play 2K and plays Harrison Barnes and see.
See, that's where the Charles Barkley argument comes in. It's like you just can't judge talent based off of video games.
No.
Oh, wait, Harrison's an exception to the rule. Just give it a try. You'll see.
But where else is Harrison Barnes? Once he left Golden State, he didn't do anything. He's been doo-doo for Dallas, and he's been doo-doo for Sacramento. Everybody's doo-doo for Sacramento except for De'Aaron Fox. But, I mean, like,
he's just building up.
Wiggins is as good as Barnes. He's not worse than Barnes.
Yeah, and we did some deep analytics, right? And I could see the argument to make both is that, yes, Wiggins scores more, but Harrison Barnes is a slightly better defender. He takes
More
less shots,
too.
so his overall field goal percentage, his true shot field goal percentage is a little bit better, but it's just so negligible. It's like toss a coin, and I'll take some points on like a Golden State team.
All right, well, unless you guys have anything else to add, I think that's a pretty good place to call it. Shout out to Coach Z, Mr. Mercier, and of course Jack for coming on the video. Coach Z, I'm sorry we couldn't get you in here sooner to go from the start.
No, you're fine, man.
And again, shout out to you guys for coming into the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time on the Debate Mates.
Thanks, Wani. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.